Hey guys, Rinji here, once again bringing you the worst out of the VTuber community, and I have to admit something. I myself am naive to the whole drama I sometimes cover. And what do I mean by this? I sometimes think that once a topic has been covered by me like one or two times, that's gonna be the end of it. But no, it's always recurring, and always something new happens when certain controversial issues are discussed within the VTuber community. And today is no different. As you probably know, the R word, the retard controversy, is back in full swing as Lucid Multimedia, a small American VTuber agency, has suspended one of their talents, Roza Coatl, for expressing a pretty nuanced opinion, in my mind, about the R word controversy in Bebe. If you want to know more about that, you can watch my previous videos. I even made a whole stream about this recently, so if you want to be part of this conversation, feel free to look at my previous content. But let's get right into this and see what actually happened with Roza. Regarding our persona, Roza Coatl's recent activities, we are aware of the posts and comments that persona under our agency, Roza Coatl, also known as Genie Mercurialis, has made regarding certain inflammatory topics on Twitter. Per rules of our internal investigation, we have decided to suspend Roza's activities for 10 days. During this time, Roza will be prohibited from streaming and making content. She will resume her activities on June 5th. Hope to also use this time to engage in open dialogue within our organization to think about what our company's values are moving forward. At Lucid Multimedia, we will respect and actively encourage the sharing of different perspectives and opinions. We also acknowledge that there is an appropriate time, place, and occasion for such topics to be discussed. In this particular case, Roza's posts were deemed both inappropriate for the occasion and unprofessional as befitting a member of our organization. Because of this, and because of this was not the first time Roza has engaged in this topic haphazardly, we have decided to suspend her. We thank you for your understanding in this matter. Signed, Lucid Multimedia. And let's see what kind of discussion Roza has been engaging in, because this is the crux of the matter. And this will all come back to this announcement and how Lucid apparently treats their talents and what their motives are at the end of this. Some food for thought. If word bad in the past, but word means something new in present, am I bad for using the word with new definition? Or are you bad for insisting the old definition can't go away? Am I preventing language from evolving, or is it you? Seems easy to me. More food for thought. Remember when gay was an insult and instead of demonizing the word we started owning it and being, yeah, I'm gay and? But now nobody uses gay as an insult. Isn't it crazy how the bullies will stop if you don't react? Works just like mommy said it would. Dear management, for the record, I just want people to give it some thought. I didn't mean for it to become a heated debate in replies. I've caught myself, I won't reply to anyone else, please don't yell at me. Sincerely, sorry, your biggest hiring mistake, Roza. And the discussion continued. I think as long as it's still harmful, I think it shouldn't be used towards others. The intention is clear, in my opinion. Well, harmful towards who? Calling someone an idiot is directly harmful to the target, but we aren't calling for a ban on idiot. That's because it isn't a slur, nor is it used primarily towards a certain group of people. The second thing is what makes a word a slur. Without the second thing, a word is not a slur. Can we agree that the other word that is used the same way as idiot is used indiscriminately these days? Regardless of what you're using it for, it's still harmful to people and still portrays a negative impact. I think that much is what's important. Even though this word in particular literally has a history of a negative meaning for neurodivergent people, I think it's important to respect people being uncomfortable with its usage. I've discussed this topic to death, and Roza is completely in the right here. Idiot and things like moron has been used in the same fashion and can be considered slurs as well in the past, but people are really hung up on the word retard in particular. It's like the only word they use, and our word bad, and they just go on that without considering the nuances of this whole conversation and what makes an insulting word a slur, and what kind of connotations are connected with that. There are people who are uncomfortable with women being able to vote, but I don't see you complaining about women voting. If you restricted everyone based on what the minority is uncomfortable with, we have no rights whatsoever. Is that the world you want to live in? What the fuck kind of logic is that? You're comparing equal rights to a slur that harms people and families with people with intellectual disabilities. Maybe it's an outdated thought process, but words are not inherently hurtful. Yes, people can be cunts and harass you to the point of causing psychological distress, but can be done with any word weaponized against someone. Only someone stupid every day will have the same effect as calling someone a retard every day. And here's more discussion about this topic. I agree. It is 100% case-by-case basis, and how the language evolves play a huge factor. In the example you gave, chink is kind of faded away, people don't really say it much anymore, but this retained its use. I agree people shouldn't say that word, same with the N-word, definitely case-by-case. Let's see what the person had to say. Not here to argue, just some perspective. Try to think of the usage of language having an effect on how groups of people will be treated. Throughout history, slurs have been used to empower those who choose to discriminate. Even if someone uses a slur with no harmful intention, if everyone says it, it doesn't necessarily negate the harmful power. It reinforced harmful stereotypes. Well, you know, the more power you give to the word, the more impact it's gonna have going forward. With the word like retard or retarded, people have been using it for decades now to indicate someone extremely stupid. It's taking the power away from the word of, you know, discriminating against people with disabilities. So if you're bringing that back, you're pretty much making the slurs have more impact, and overall, that contributes to this discriminatory practices that you're talking about. So do have that in mind, that the more power you give to the word, the worse it becomes, not only for everyone else, but also for you. A good example of this is something I personally experienced: racism towards Asian people. Not too many years ago, it was considered ugly to have smaller eyes, smaller nose, other Asian features. Now that K-pop, anime, and other Asian media has been popularized, the frequency of those insults has reduced, been disproven, and slowly fading out of existence. When I was a kid, people would pull their eyes back at me, tell me food I eat is disgusting, yet they meant it. Yet they meant it with no harmful intention. They heard it before, they just saying things they heard older people / media have said. Sure, words are just words, and sure, you could mean no harm, but just because your intentions are good doesn't mean you're not reinforcing harmful stereotypes others have attached to it. Well, you see, that's also a slippery slope, because in the same way, all words can become harmful like that, and just because one word has been deemed unacceptable within quote-unquote society, doesn't mean that other words won't. Like, words that were innocuous beforehand can also become that, and censoring language like this is a bad way for society to move forward. It's very regressive and just leads to more censorship. Making the word your own, the same with gay and the N-word, isn't necessarily comparable. I've never met an Asian who badly wants to reclaim chink slur. It's a case-by-case basis. Well, that's because the chink slur isn't used as often as the N-word is, and it has a pretty different history as far as at least the US is considered. So, as Roza herself mentioned, this is a case-by-case basis thing, and how different communities and different people react to it and what they think about it is also quite varied. One person within a specific community will be offended by those specific words, and the other simply won't. Let's see what other discussion was had because of this. I normally just don't say certain things that are words that I think will always have a bad connotation, like the RGD word, but I think that if you fit in the spectrum of people who have a right to reclaim on said word, then no one can take that away from you. I think the connotation only sticks around because some people can let it go, especially for certain words that literally have new definitions. Such words that in the modern language are simple insults with bad connotations, no different to that of calling someone an idiot. That's completely right. I think letting old definitions go is a double-edged sword, because while in some situations moving past an old definition is good, a move like gay is now seen in a casual light, we were just to just blow by the history of the hard R, then wouldn't be good as a black man. For the hard R, I'm inclined to agree, because regardless of its actual meaning, it's rooted in the word black. It literally means black in other languages. Even if you use an insult as a insult a white person, for example, you're insulting them by calling them black. But folks need to stop freaking out when someone says a word that sounds the same or similar. Context is important, and the idea of sound that came out of your mouth, so you're racist regardless of what you were actually saying, is idiotic. I also mentioned this, intentions completely matter, and context is also quite important to this whole discussion. But during this whole R-word controversy, all of that just went out of the window. Just because someone said a word, people have deemed them pretty much the worst thing possible. And once again, I went through all of that, so I won't be mentioning that too much. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that in general consensus is to change the meaning of a word, or not make its said word come off in the same light as before when they get so offended over it. That is, of course, if you're not a part of said group in which the word applies to. Unfortunately, that's not the case for the R slur. The R slur originated from the medical term, which then got turned into associating those people with intellectual disability as stupid or idiots. There's tons of other words that can be used in replacement that aren't ableist. And see, this is the problem. These words after that will be deemed the same, because the perpetually offended are just gonna be perpetually offended, and they're always gonna be looking for something to get offended by. And once again, the slippery slope. If it's a slur and not your place to reclaim, then there is your answer. If it's not, then your call. So of those affected, who gets to decide? I can't help but notice they never seem to all agree. The loud ones always claim to be the majority, and even if they truly are, what happened to standing up for the minority? Does their opinion not matter? Maybe we side with common sense? To argue that you don't use certain words out of emotional recall where they fear, respect, hope, ambition, I think is very valid, but to try to give it a sheen of rational, objective, moral logic as if it always had been universally true and would suggest cognitive bias, in my opinion. I agree. I don't believe anyone can be unbiased on on the topic of words, especially words that have terrible or upsetting meanings. Language is hard, lol. No, it's quite possible to have a nuanced discussion about this sort of thing, just like is happening right now in the thread that I'm reading. People are so quick to jump to conclusions and shut down the discussion. It's incredibly disappointing. As a person who is, on paper, medically retarded, this is honestly a stupid debate in the first place. By using the word the way it's being used now, it isn't any different than saying, are you slow, slur, or not, that it all means, and all it still means. It's literally just calling someone stupid. At some point, I do see how taking a medical issue such as slow development and making it an insult is still bad, similar to how the word obese got weaponized despite it being a medical term. I have a really hard time seeing it. When someone calls someone else retard today, they aren't calling them slow in the sense of slowed learning. They're calling them stupid, unintelligent. People with learning disabilities aren't usually dumb, just have a hard time retaining. True, as someone that is dyslexic in this discussion. Last post I'll make on this topic. I put all my thoughts in one-to-one easily digestible place, so maybe, just maybe, some of y'all might get where I'm coming from. Replies are open as always, but I won't be responding. I've said my piece with this. If you disagree after reading it, so be it. Let's see what she had to say. The modern use of retarded is just very stupid. When someone says something or someone is retarded, they aren't saying it is mental disabilities, they're saying it's stupid. Most people know personally that have learning disabilities of some sort are usually not the biggest fans of the word, but they aren't offended when it's used towards someone else. Some are offended, some aren't offended, even if it's used towards them, but those are both edge cases. By the way, my mom works as a behavior therapist for folks with learning disabilities, and a lot of regulars I had at GameStop had learning disabilities. I know and have worked with a lot of people with these difficulties. I don't say that to say I'm 100% correct, but I say that to give insight where I'm coming from. Knowing a lot of people from the affected group and even being friends with many. I also say it to express I'm not talking about one or two people. I'm talking about a decent-sized pool of people. The majority of these folks have expressed to me that when they find truly offensive is when people can take the insult and choose to deflect it back at them by claiming they should be offended. Why should I be the one that's angry? I have a very hard time with the new things, but I'm not stupid and they aren't insulting me. When someone says you can't say that word is offensive to people with learning disabilities, it's basically saying no. When you call someone stupid, you're saying they have learning disabilities. Deflecting insult back at these people and effectively calling them stupid by equating the words. Having a learning disability is not stupidity. These are not the same meaning, and how many people seem to think they are is genuinely concerning. The majority of these people are not stupid. A lot of these folks are extremely smart but have a hard time acquiring new knowledge / learning new things through conventional means. Many of these folks also have a hard time expressing how they feel or conveying their understanding of stuff. For that same second reason, a lot of them choose to stay quiet on the fear of poorly explaining themselves and then getting criticized or even outright bullied for it, oftentimes even being called stupid or other okay alternatives, as if that made it any better. That's probably one of the best takes I agree with, and I pretty much said that in one of my streams myself as well. Let's continue. And that's just the saddest part. A lot of these same people who pretend to champion for folks with learning disabilities will then turn around and exclude them from their social circles because they're weird, or in one of their greatest displays of irony because they're dumb, and these champions don't want to deal with people with actual disabilities. I've actually displayed that as well during my stream. So all of this checks out. This is very on point. Even those on the higher ends of the spectrum I've seen do this, and it's generally sad because they're a little quirky. They're so high on the spectrum it doesn't impede their learning. They suddenly get to speak on behalf of everyone below them on that spectrum and judge that their actions aren't okay because I'm neurodivergent and I can pick up on social cues, so they must be able to too. To wrap up, let's look at some simple definitions. Slur, in the context we're talking about, means a derogatory or insulting term applied to a particular group of people. The adjective retarded means 1. Offensive, dated, less advanced in mental, physical, or social development than is usual of one's age. 2. Offensive, very foolish or stupid. When the word meant the first thing, it would agree it was a slur. It met the prerequisites for a slur, it was used against a particular group of people. The word means something different now, and as a result, it doesn't mean the prerequisites for a slur. It's used indiscriminately to refer to things as very stupid, and no one person redefined it. The original meaning was renamed to a different term, and as a society we changed how we use this word. People wanted to be ableist, they'd go around calling people neurodivergent as an insult, or telling them they have learning disability in place of just calling them stupid. They wouldn't use an outdated term. Last thing I want to say, I hope people who took the time to actually fucking read this can realize that I'm not coming from a place of my freedom of speech, but rather from a place of genuine care for people in my life who have learning disabilities that truly affect their day-to-day, tired of people throwing that old word in their face after they've worked so hard to move away from it. They just want the old definition to stay in the ground, man. If someone isn't literally using it to insult a person with learning disability, please quit digging that old definition up. As a last thing, if a word bothers you specifically, by all means, please let me know and I want to use it around you. It's that simple. You don't have to deflect it as someone else, just to be honest, and tell me it bothers you. And lastly, just don't want anyone misunderstanding me. I said this, if Baby was a smaller VTuber, she should have gotten attacked on every single one of her posts, and you know, she did. I even showcased that every DM and reported until her Twitch was suspended or banned. She also got calls to be reported too. Time and time again, this community has shown that if you have big enough numbers, you're immune to backlash. Hi, smaller VTuber here. I not only say the word retard and retarded on stream with proper modern use, of course, rather than keeping the old definition alive like an asshole, I have even tweeted about my thoughts on it back when I was even smaller. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. What makes someone cancel-proof isn't being bigger, it's simply ignoring the mob of children that wish to be angry over shit they don't actually understand because they don't have the ability to fix any real problems in their life, so they make themselves make-believe ones to fix. I'd stand up and clap for this because this is so this, as Zoomers would say nowadays. More food for thought. Remember when gay was an insult, and instead of demonizing the word, we started owning it, being, yeah, I'm gay, and now nobody uses it as gay as an insult. It's crazy how the bullies will stop if you don't react. Works just like Mommy said it would. And lastly, there's a bit of irony here, since Lucid Multimedia itself champions itself, advertises itself as a talent agency embracing radical freedom of expression. And considering their VTuber decided to do the same and got suspended for it, does it seem like they cherish those values they themselves expressed here? So who really knows what's gonna happen with this company going forward? But for right now, this is everything, and I hope to see you on the next one.